One of the first steps is to take a thorough look at what is the breadth of a patent that you can achieve. And that's typically done by a knockout search, where you would do a patent search to see what is out there in the world that your idea, your conception could potentially run afoul of. And so to take the industrial lubricant example, you've developed a way to do lubricants in a new way that's in a more environmentally friendly or something along those lines. The first thing you'd want to do is make sure that no one else has patented these broad processes for the creation of those lubricants, whatever it might be. Secondly, is you'd look at, see, did anyone cover those similar molecules if yours were based in organic chemistry or whatever it might be? And then finally, the idea, it would be, and if that's not the case, you do an analysis around, is this broad enough to be worth protecting? Many people come to our offices who are conceivers of app development ideas, and they have wonderful things that might improve a business process or whatever it might be. An example might be something like an entrepreneur says, well, I figured out a way to use iPhones to unlock BMW doors using Bluetooth or whatever it might be. Well, that could be a great idea for an app and to build a business around, but it's probably a very poor idea for something that you should try to patent, because at a very broadly conceived way, unlocking car doors remotely has been worked out by others and it's existed for a really long time. You could probably patent the exact method of doing it using Bluetooth Light, whatever kind of thing, or to do that. However, it's not going to have a lot of broad applicability for it. And so probably shouldn't be patented. With it. If you were the first person to conceive a new metal, for example, or a drug thing, you should totally patent it. Really, really great idea. It could be priceless because it can be so broad, or a whole new product segment that someone had never conceived before. So if you're the first person to come up with a robot that vacuums floors, maybe you should patent it, kind of thing. But if you have a better way of doing it than an existing robot that vacuums floors, it wouldn't make sense to do. So the first thing is to figure out, should you do it? And then secondly is to try to work out how broad that patent can be. And some patents themselves, by their very nature, a big part of the strategy around getting a patent is do you want to disclose any of that earlier? Or would it be better to keep it as a trade secret early on? As part of provisional patents, you do have to disclose some information, and just getting others thinking about that might be really bad because there could be near followers to your idea. So competitors out there who are going to try to develop competing products in the future that maybe have more resources, better engineers, whatever it might be to do it. So once you've brought this patent out, or decided that if it made sense to do it, oftentimes you have to very quickly litigate that patent, which can also be really expensive. So as part of your entrepreneurial life cycle of figuring out what sort of resources you're going to need, what sort of business planning is necessary. It might be the case that there's a potential competitor out there, or there's maybe one of those, a very large company kind of thing that's doing something that might be relatively similar, but they just haven't sought patent protection. And so sometimes you can, not only is it very expensive to get a patent, but immediately after you get that patent, you pretty much have to go out and sue someone right away in federal court, which can be extremely expensive. And there are some certain jurisdictions where that's very common. There's a place in Texas, actually, it's almost filled with patent lawyers, where a court's doing that, where sort of patent trolls reside, and things along those lines. But even in places like in Pennsylvania, where we are here, federal court litigation, minimum $25,000 to $75,000 in legal fees to prosecute such a thing. And as a startup, one of the big considerations is that a proper use of your resources?